I'm finally making this video. Like, if you're completely new to the channel, this probably means absolutely nothing to you, but like, I have been referencing How I Met Your Mother in videos and just teasing the idea of potentially making this video basically since I started YouTube. This is an ongoing love affair just between me and this show, and I'm finally expressing it today. And what better time to do it than on the eve of the release of How I Met Your Father, which, for the record, I don't think looks great. I'm really sorry to say I really want to enjoy this show, and I'm still going to give it a go, but I didn't laugh once during the teaser trailer. It didn't look good at all. As far as I'm concerned, as long as it captures the heart of How I Met Your Mother, I'll probably enjoy it. And according to earlier reports, I believe it's going to create like some How I Met Your Mother cinematic universe, which is something I personally am very in favor in, because to me, this is a perfect show. I know people have their criticisms, a lot of them just stemming down to one very specific seasons, and for most part, I agree with those criticisms, but I can appreciate this show, flaws and all. And my personal experience with this show isn't like the typical, I've been watching it since it first came out. I mean, it first came out in 2005. I was 7 years old. I wasn't really the target demographic for How I Met Your Mother back then. I mean, the first episode I ever saw was when I was just watching E4. I think it came on after The Big Bang Theory, which I was watching at the time, and an episode came on. I specifically remember the episode I first watched, The Best Burger in New York City, which, to be honest, isn't like a top 50 best episodes to me. Yeah, I have a top 50 best episode. I've really thought this through, and immediate thoughts were just like the characters are kind of cold. They're not like as warm and welcoming as a lot of other sitcoms. I feel like you watch Friends or The Big Bang Theory, you kind of like, you like the characters immediately because they're designed to be likable. How I Met Your Mother isn't really like that, in my opinion. I actually think a lot of the characters are awful people. I mean, I don't know, personally, I think Ted is a douche. They actively say that in the show, but he is actively Barney, again, they kind of say it in the show, is an absolute sociopath. I even think Robin, and don't hate me for saying this, is a bit of a narcissist. Marshall and Lily are kind of like the only characters in this show that are somewhat like, okay, they seem nice, but even they have their moments where you're kind of like, oh, okay. But despite that, despite all of their flaws, I can relate to the characters. I can't relate to perfect characters like Harry Potter or Luke Skywalker, where they're just like good regardless of any other temptations. I try to be good, but when I was 16, 17, like Harry is throughout some of the Harry Potter books, and just like, I don't think I would have done as good of things as you would have done in that moment. Gooder, that's a How I Met Your Mother. That was a major lost track of where I was going with that conversation. And I think another major criticism of the show is that it's too similar to Friends, which is something I can also definitely see. I mean, I personally saw How I Met Your Mother first, so I can never see it through the lens of someone who saw Friends and then saw How I Met Your Mother afterwards and thought, they're just ripping off storylines from this show, because there are definitely major similarities between some storylines that appear in Friends and then appear in How I Met Your Mother 10 years later. Even Ted and Ross, very similar characters. Joey and Barney, Barney's a bit more of an extreme sociopathic version. I feel like you even have Rachel, Robin, kind of similar, and then Chandler and Monica and Marshall and Lily. How I Met Your Mother doesn't really have a Phoebe in it, as far as I'm aware, but for me, I just think this ongoing storyline throughout How I Met Your Mother just makes it a better show to me, where Friends just kind of feels like, okay, we're going to make as many episodes as we can until it runs out of things to do in this show. I mean, I like Friends. I'm not even trying to like hate on Friends here. Anyway, I'm rambling. You see, I'm actually going to try and structure this video. I haven't actually watched How I Met Your Mother the full way through since like 2020, and I've seen a couple episodes here and there, but just to be clear, this isn't going to be like a beginner's lesson into enjoying How I Met. This isn't like 101 How I Met Your Mother. See what? Because Robin, that's the name of an episode. But to start, let me just give a few quick general thoughts. I think the first season is almost a perfect example of how to make a first season in a sitcom. Well, I still stand by my take that like no sitcom, the best season should be the first season. That'd be wrong. Like, the whole point of a sitcom is, if you ever look back at a sitcom and think that peaked in its first season, it's kind of failed in terms of being a sitcom and fulfilling its potential. Because for me at least, sitcoms aren't funny because of the jokes, but more because of who's saying the jokes. And therefore, what makes sitcoms funny is the parasocial relationships you build with the characters and then the circumstances of which the jokes are being told. Season 2, I don't actually think is that great. I actually think it falls flat a lot of the time. Not very many of the episodes on my list come from season 2. I don't think it's actually a great series, which we'll get back to in a bit, because Robert and Ted, I'm not a fan. Season 3, season 4, season 5, season 7, those are my top 4 seasons. I think they just execute the formula to perfection during those seasons. I particularly think from Sandcastles in the Sand, the episode where Robert and Barney first get together, show is at its best. And there are weird moments like during season 4 and season 5 when Ted is with no one and Robin and Barney are together and Marcia and Lily are together, and they almost don't know what to do with Ted in the series, which is weird because it's all about Ted and his pursuit to finding the mother of his children. But I actually think those are the best episodes in the series. And you may have noticed I left out season 6 when listing my favorite seasons, and I don't actually dislike season 6. It's probably the 5th best season of the show. But like, I don't know, Ted and Zoe, no, please. It's definitely the saddest season. They fully go and try and break your heart. We'll talk about it later. I also haven't obviously mentioned season 8, which I feel like everyone just jumps on season 9 as the worst season. And I agree. I think season 9 definitely is the worst season. But season 8, it's definitely clear the writers just were done with this show. They didn't know what to do with the characters anymore. They just like set up storylines that don't make sense. I'll get into this a lot more later. And same with season 9. I have a whole section of this video to talk about season 9 and just the ending in general. But that doesn't really matter to me. It's a sitcom that is just so much more than a sitcom. I mean, I don't even think it's the funniest show. Drew Gooden has a full experiment on his channel where he measures how many laughs a sitcom are trying to get a minute, and How I Met Your Mother is rock bottom of that list. And well, I would argue quality over quantity. I also think that's not really the style of the show. It isn't really a sitcom that is designed to try and make you laugh. This is a sitcom that fully just wants to break your heart. It wants to ruin your life and make you never turn back. Anytime an episode ends with Ted talking about how it's all part of a bigger story as some slow pop song plays, I'm a sucker for that. I can recall almost all these episodes. First one I remember properly hitting, Nothing Good Happens After 2 a.m. Sorry, baby, but it's getting too much to take. A song by Robin Hackett. I noticed that. Oh, what about when he finds the mother's umbrella at the St. Patrick's Day party? I didn't know it yet, but my luck was about to change. Beautiful bitch, get me out of this mess. Oh, when he's sitting with Stella in the car, this is gonna hurt if it ever ends. Promise you'll be careful with my heart. I haven't even started talking about when Robin moves out and just leaves the blue French horn behind. Or I guess this proves they kind of ran out of episode ideas at the end. When Robin moves out for the second time, and then Ted leaves McLaren's bar with a black umbrella, and everyone has yellow umbrellas. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Guys, that might be the best scene in television ever. I don't think there's really a debate about that either, actually. So if you have a rebuttal for that comment, please keep that to yourself. Season 8, when Klaus is talking about his Lebensfrau-Schnitzel-Schatz, and it's really too late now to go, so we wait for it. A song called The Funeral, as they introduce the mother. I see what you did there, and it's really sad because all of these narrations were done by Bob Saget, who sadly passed away earlier this week. And genuinely, this is someone who's created some of my favorite moments in all of television, and genuinely, just using this basic formula of sad music playing while Ted narrates about how this is all part of a bigger story makes basically every season finale just god tier. Like, they fully just trick us with these small pieces of the puzzle, making us think that we're close to actually meeting the mother when we're not really actually that close. When he does the leap and says, because as you know, your mother, she was in that class. And then season 5 rolls around and it turns out he was actually teaching the wrong class and she wasn't actually in his class, so they aren't as close as you think that. But I think that's about as perfect as you can do one of those like season finales where it's revealed that something's actually really close and then you just kind of retcon it in the end of season 8 when they finally reveal the mother. Love's such a delicate thing that we do with nothing to prove. One ticket to Farhampton, please. Like, it's a show where it actually doesn't make sense to not watch it in order, which typically I don't feel like is how a sitcom works. Most sitcoms, I feel like you kind of just can put any episode on at any given time and it kind of does the same thing as any other episode would do. With this show, these endings aren't going to hit the same if you're not watching them in order. It's also not as if they only revolve these emotional moments around Ted specifically. They easily could. He's the main character of the show. It's his story, but right from the end of season 1, in the final episode, as I rode home the next day, the city looked the same. The people looked the same. It all looked the same. But it wasn't. In just one night, everything had changed. Wait, no. You can't do this. No. Stop. Right. And then there's like the obvious episodes that are sad, being in season 6, when Marshall's dad just outright died. They have a full-on countdown to Marshall's dad's death. And then a full-on funeral episode where everyone's just... How is this even being classified as a sitcom? This is just outright... This isn't even fun. But I would argue even sadder, in the same season, being season 6, is Barney's dad and everything going on. It's just like... A kid needs his hoot, man. Because if you were going to be some lame suburban dad...
Why couldn't you have been that for me?
And then... After all of that abandonment, when he finally opens up to someone, Robin, she rejects him too. Tick, tick, tick. Okay, anyway, let's get back to talking about Ted and the ending. Because the whole show builds up to something. Well, that's why I can't go there. Because the whole show kind of builds up to something that's lukewarm at best. I mean, I don't hate the ending as much as most people. I don't think it ruins the show for me by any means, as you can probably tell by how I've spoken about this show up until this point. And ultimately, I feel like it's the writers who were kind of screwed over. I mean, the ending was clearly written and filmed back in 2006 after season 1 and at the start of season 2. In that moment in time, it made sense. They didn't consider for the fact that 1, Robin and Barney works way better than Robin and Ted, and 2, that Tracy McConnell was the perfect mother in terms of like the chemistry between her and Ted. Like, I can't even credit how well she portrayed this character enough, because there were 8 seasons of build-up to meeting this character, and she just like fully embraced exactly what everyone watching wanted the mother to be. And I just think at that point, we just wanted a happy ending for Ted. We'd seen him go through so much and we didn't need a bittersweet ending at that stage. We just wanted the guy to have some kids and be happy. I don't think this is going to go down well with a lot of people, but I actually enjoy a lot of parts of season 9. I mean, the flashback scenes now involve the mother in the future, showing what their relationship was like, making it a very different show. There's no mystery to who the mother is anymore, and I enjoy getting to see how well they work together. I really like that she meets each member of the gang before she meets Ted. For me, personally, Unpause and How Your Mother Met Me are 2 of the best episodes throughout the entire series. Finally getting all of these missing pieces about Barney and the mother and putting them all into just like one specific episode where it's all revealed. I really, really enjoy that. Ultimately, yes, this is an entire season taking place over the course of one weekend. It's almost as much time spent during the episodes as there is actual time in the physical episodes. Like, so many things happen simultaneously, but I think the issues start way before season 9. I mean, season 7, it's revealed that Barney and Robin are going to marry. And in the time from them revealing that, Barney is in like 3 separate relationships that aren't Robin. I'm personally team Barney and Robin. I've not been quiet about my belief in that. And I genuinely do not buy any of Ted's confessions of love towards Robin post like season 4, maybe even 3, to be completely honest. Like, it feels like they've only included those moments in there because it kind of has to be in there to fit up with the ending of the story. And I personally believe the start of season 8, where Ted is back with Victoria, which makes no sense. I get they're trying to like tie up all the loose ends, but I personally loved that relationship with Victoria in season 1, which is kind of like the one that he let get away that could have been the one. They didn't let that just be that. They had to bring her back, made her leave the altar from, which completely goes against his entire character. Someone who got left at the altar, I do not believe would want someone to leave the altar for someone else for them. It's just like, and at the start of season 8, they're literally living with the guy she left. Robin is with that guy that she met in that one episode, that one time. Again, just trying to tie up a loose end of like Robin's romances before she fully commits to Barney. And then Barney is with Quinn, who they get engaged and everything, and then they just kind of end it because he wanted a prenup. It's all of that, everything at the start of season 8. Pointless. But when we talk about the actual ending, the 4th last episode of the series, the Gary Blauman episode, I actually enjoy. I mean, it gives a lot of closure to the characters that aren't in the final 2 episodes. And when it actually comes to that final 2-parter episode, which for the record, I think should have been a 4-parter episode, and I don't know why it wasn't. It should have, like, why did we just need a 4-parter episode to end the series? And I know the obvious issue everyone has is that the mother dies, but I don't have as much of a problem with that as I do Barney and Robin getting a divorce, and then Barney going against his entire character growth over the last 4-5 seasons and having a perfect month, just turning full-on playboy again, which, for the record, I still like Barney's ending. I like the fact he gets that one girl where he's able to settle down and say, "You are my everything." I don't know the exact quote. I know a lot of quotes from this show. That's not one of them I just know off the top of my head. I think that really fits the character we've come to love and seen grow right before our eyes. But again, it just makes more sense with the character from season 3 or season 4 before everything fully happened with Robin. Disregarding that though, I still think the bits with Ted meeting the mother are sweet enough to give me that peaceful closure to the series. But I just think more than anything, this show is a cautionary tale that you can't write an ending before you finish telling a story. As much as like, I feel like that's almost like a hack to writing a story, write the ending before you start. Sometimes when you plant the seeds of characters, they grow in different directions than where you initially envisioned. And in this case, it didn't really fit with the story 8 years later. But does it ruin the whole show for me? No. So let me lasso you back in. I actually wanted to get a blue French horn, but that isn't a very easy thing to obtain. And I thought, why not make a reference to another show I like? Now, you know, that's kind of besides the point right now, because I want to explain why, despite the fact the ending was a little bit lukewarm, that doesn't actually matter to me, because there are still countless episodes, or I guess a countable number of episodes that meant a lot to me, and regardless of how many times I watch them, are always going to resonate with me in some way or another. Like, weirdly, I think I've learned a lot from this show. I genuinely have given people relationship advice fully using quotes from this show. Does that make me a bad person when it comes to giving relationship advice? Maybe, but also I genuinely think there are some really important life lessons that even just going to America for the first time on my own. I remember Jonathan Carlin, you know Jonathan Carlin from Super Carlin, a small channel, you might have heard of him. He literally said to me, "Is all your knowledge of American places based off How I Met Your Mother?" And I was like, yeah, I know Cleveland. That's in Ohio, where Ted is from, and the Minnesota, the Vikings. Okay, that's all my knowledge on America. But genuinely, this is the thing I quote in daily life more than anything. Yes, more than Toy Story. This is a more quotable thing. How much can I say you've got a friend in me to people without coming off weird? I've checked not very many times. There are also just a load of episodes that I find work really well as standalones. Like, you know those episodes where the whole gang are just kind of sitting around, probably in the main apartment, playing a game together? There is not a bad one of them. Like, yes, they're less important to the story, but it's a great way of just showing off the characters and how fun they can be just in a very relaxed environment, and just a very good in terms of, like, we don't want to see Ted failing at love 100%. I want some episodes that are more laid back in that sense. And I sincerely stand by the fact that every show, regardless of what genre it's in, needs at least one episode where they all break into a musical number unexplained. And I know what you're thinking, what's funny, been drinking that girl was smoking hot. Yes, I could have nailed it, but no, it's not a failure, cause there's one thing she is not. 2 scar a 10 would be just fine, but I'd rather Beatrice to the 9. Oh my god, Neil Patrick Harris, he understands the assignment every single time. Like, the guy is the GOAT of sitcoms. I've just made that ruling, right? He's the GOAT. And don't think I've forgotten, yes, there are time travel episodes. Obviously, you've got the one where a future version of Marshall comes back for 15 seconds. Don't worry about that one as much, because there is literally an episode called The Time Travelers, which is just the most heartbreaking episode. It was just Ted on his own. The entire time. He just wanted those extra 45 days. Is that too much to give him, universe? And then there's obviously the Billy Joel a cappella number at the end. Oh, for the longest time. Oh, for the longest. If you said goodbye to me tonight. Ooh, honest, I can't work out how that isn't the number one episode Toy Matter right now, but it's just a testament to how good another one of the episodes must be to be ahead of it. And place your guesses to what you think my number one episode is right now. Pause the video right now. Take a guess. Okay, I'm guessing you've done the whole pausing and guessing thing. I am, of course, a fan of the playbook. Yeah, that's a classic example of misdirection, which is something How I Met Your Mother thrives at. I believe this show is an actual masterpiece when it comes to this kind of setup, payoff, mystery type storytelling. Again, not the typical style of writing when it comes to a sitcom, and I think the playbook is just the perfect example of this. Like, this is an actual really important episode in the context of the show. It's immediately following Robin and Barney's breakup, and we're instantly introduced to Barney sitting in McLaren's bar in a scuba suit, creating the mystery of why is he in a scuba suit? The episode transpires in what is, I would say, the perfect comic relief episode of How I Met Your Mother as well, because Barney is the most effective character for comic relief, particularly in his ploys to get girls to sleep with him, and we're just getting a full episode dedicated to his playbook and his methods towards his pursuits. And then, alongside developing everything Robin and Barney are going through, more particularly with Robin in later episodes, and also Barney, who needs a lot of help. And just when you think you've got the payoff twist ending, Barney has actually just been manipulating things the entire time, got exactly what he wanted, because he wanted Lily to do the things she did, and therefore, well,
I think Barney just won game night.
And this isn't even the only episode where Barney meticulously uses the playbook to create one of these intriguing storylines that just, in the oceans deep in the This video has been fun and everything, but if someone is still watching right now, I appreciate you a lot. And I really think it's using this method of storytelling in what's supposed to be a comedy show that makes it stand out for me among the crowd. It feels like it's there more than just to make me laugh. It wants me to relate to and care about the characters.
It's big comedy, but you also really care about these characters.
It's more real and engaging for that reason. There are so many episodes that use this mystery type storytelling and just flourish for this reason. Obviously, you've got the pineapple incident, which is probably the most famous example of it. Ted's got blackout drunk, and we've got to work out if Robin's the mystery girl in his bed. twist, she isn't. And my personal favorite from just specifically season 1 is the one where he meets this mystery girl at a wedding. We have no idea who she is. Even the person who had the wedding doesn't know who she is. And twist, she made the cake that Marshall has been raving about the entire episode.
This is the girl. You gotta marry her. Today. She has to move in with us.
Ted Mosby, the architect? What? Would Ted really cheat on Rob? I don't think Ted would cheat on her. He'd only do that to Victoria. Twist, it was Barney using his name. Never bring an ex to your wedding. He says it right at the start. And the clear red herring that we think it's about is Robin. If only he'd understood what the full story was. The snowstorm that happened the last 3 days. I know this one's kind of left field, but honestly, this catches me off guard every time. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh yeah, the snowstorm lasted 3 days. I know it's in the title, and maybe it's caught me off guard about 3 or 4 times, and now I remember it, but this is a good episode. We got to appreciate it for what it is. I'm proud of you, 3 snowstorm days episode. And I haven't even talked about the ducky time. Barney literally manipulates a bet that he hasn't even made yet and then loses that bet. So Marshall gets a bunch more stabs. Oh my God, I haven't even mentioned the slap bet yet. I know I criticized season 2 a little bit earlier, but it's still a good scene. The slap bet Robin Sparkles episode, it's as good, like that is as iconic an episode as they come. There are so many things about this show that I haven't even mentioned in this video. I'm sure I can't think of them right now because otherwise I'd have mentioned them, but like, I hate the idea that I haven't mentioned something that I should have mentioned. This has been chaotic. I've had a good time. I've tried to fanboy about this show as much as possible, and I'd say appropriately.
I'd like to announce this evening's big twist ending.
It's just the final page of the playbook, and it reads, the first word of every chapter. And I mean, this video was split into 6 chapters, so I guess it wants to take the first word of every chapter and put them in order and see what it says. I'm a Ted Lasso fan.
Tell me what
There you have it, kids. Life can be funny sometimes. I know a past version of myself's gonna hate me for ending the video like this, but sometimes you wait so long to make a video about your favorite TV show of all time that by the time you actually get around to doing it, it isn't even your favorite TV show of all time. But that's okay. How I Met Your Mother will always have a place in my heart.